The bright morning sun touched the glass walls of the City Science Museum, spreading golden light across the floor. People moved quietly inside, speaking in soft voices. Robots, holograms, and futuristic machines filled the wide halls. Rayan, a quiet and serious man, walked slowly with his little daughter, Lena, holding her hand tightly. He wore a dark coat and glasses. His face looked tired, but his eyes were kind. Rayan was not an ordinary man. Years ago, he had built a great company and became a millionaire. But after the sudden death of his wife and son, he left everything behind and disappeared from the public eye. No one saw him for many years. Only recently had he returned to the world, with one purpose: to spend time with his daughter and heal his broken heart. Lena, just 6 years old, was full of life. Her small feet skipped over the museum floor as she asked endless questions. "Daddy, what is that robot doing?" "It's building a small car," Rayan answered with a smile. "Can I make one too?" "Maybe one day," he replied gently. They passed a room full of floating displays. One showed planets spinning in the air. Another showed machines that could copy animal movements. Lena laughed when a small robot dog chased its tail. Then they came to a special area with a large silver sign. Hall of Lost Knowledge, Prototype Room. The lights in this room were dim and soft music played in the background. Inside were machines that could remember old books, stories, and even people's voices. In the center stood a glass chamber. Behind the glass was a boy. He looked around 10 years old. He had short dark hair, soft eyes, and wore simple clothes. His face was calm, almost peaceful. He didn't move like a robot, but he didn't blink either. As they walked past the chamber, Lena suddenly stopped. Her eyes grew wide. She pulled on her father's hand and pointed at the boy behind the glass. "Daddy, Daddy, that's my brother." She shouted, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. The words hit Rayan like a storm. His heart began to beat faster. His breath stopped. "What did you say?" he asked slowly, kneeling beside her. "That's my brother, Daddy. That's Zidane. I saw his picture at home. That's him." Rayan turned to look at the glass chamber again. He hadn't really looked before. He had been too busy watching Lena. Now he saw the boy's face clearly. His legs felt weak. His eyes filled with tears. He stepped closer to the glass. "Zidane?" he whispered. The boy didn't move. He just stood there, his eyes open, still and silent. Rayan placed a trembling hand on the glass. He stared for a long time. It was him, the same small nose, the same eyebrows, the same little mark on his chin from when he fell while playing. It was his son, his Zidane, the boy he thought was gone forever. His knees gave way. He collapsed gently to the floor, holding his head in his hands. People around looked shocked. A museum guard rushed forward, but another man, older and quiet, held up his hand to stop him. "Let him be," said the man. "This is not a normal visitor." The older man's name was Dr. Hamill. He was the lead designer of this hall and the most secretive scientist in the city. He walked slowly toward Rayan, kneeling beside him. "You know this boy?" Dr. Hamill asked softly. Rayan looked up, eyes red, voice shaking. "That's my son, Zidane. He died 5 years ago." Dr. Hamill's face grew serious. "This boy is not a robot," he said slowly. "He is not part of the exhibit. He appeared here 3 weeks ago. We found him standing in the back hall, silent. No memory, no ID. We placed him here because we didn't know what else to do. We thought he might be an unfinished clone or a lost prototype." "Where did he come from?" Rayan whispered. "We don't know," Hamill said. "We ran tests. He's real. His DNA is human. His cells are perfect. He doesn't age, doesn't speak, but he's not a machine." Lena walked up to the glass and pressed her little hand against it. "Zidane," she whispered. "Come home." Something changed. The boy blinked. His eyes moved slowly to the side and met Rayanne's. A single tear rolled down the boy's cheek. Dr. Hamill's eyes widened. He never moved before, he said. Rayanne stood up again, stronger now. I need to take him, he said. You can't, Dr. Hamill replied quietly. Not yet. We need to understand where he came from and why. Why he hasn't aged. The boy lifted his hand and placed it against the glass, right where Lena's hand touched it. Rayanne's heart broke all over again. He didn't know how this was possible, but he knew one thing: Zeden was alive. Rayanne couldn't sleep that night. His heart was too full. He sat on the edge of his bed, watching the night sky through the wide glass window. Beside him, Lena slept peacefully, her small hand still clutching her toy bear. But Rayanne's mind was far away, still trapped in that moment at the museum. Standing in front of the glass chamber. His son, Zeden, had been gone for 5 years. The boy he had thought was lost forever was now alive, standing behind glass like a quiet statue. And Zeden had cried. He had blinked. He had looked at them. It was no machine. No replica. It was him. The next morning, Rayanne returned to the City Science Museum before it opened. Dr. Hamill was waiting for him in the quiet back lab. The air was cold, and the light hummed softly overhead. The boy Zeden was no longer in the main exhibit. He now sat in a small observation room, simple and clean, with white walls and soft chairs. He still wore the same clothes. He didn't speak, but his eyes followed every movement. Lena had stayed at home with her nanny. Rayanne wanted to understand the truth first, before bringing her again. Dr. Hamill offered him a warm cup of tea. I've been doing this work for 30 years, the scientist said. But I've never seen anything like this boy. Rayanne's voice was low. He's my son. I'm sure of it. Dr. Hamill nodded. We ran a DNA test last night. I thought you should know the result. Rayanne held his breath. It's a 99.9% match, Hamill said. This boy is your biological son. Rayanne closed his eyes. Tears quietly slid down his face. But this time, they were not only of sorrow, they were of hope. How is this possible? He asked. Dr. Hamill looked serious. Do you remember the day of the explosion at the spaceport? He asked. Rayanne nodded. How could he forget? They were traveling to a nearby moon station. There had been an energy failure in the docking system. Fire, smoke, screams. And then silence. Rayanne, his wife Suma, and Lena had survived. But Zeden had disappeared. No body was found, no signal. Only ashes and metal. Hamill continued. The spaceport was testing a new quantum transport system in secret. It was not meant for human use. Something went wrong. We think Zeden was pulled into a temporal fold, a pocket of space where time behaves differently. Rayanne stared at him, confused. Time fold? He repeated. Yes, in this kind of fold, time can move slower, or faster, or even stop. Hamill said. If Zeden was trapped in such a place, he may have experienced only hours or days while 5 years passed for us. Rayanne felt like the air had left the room. But how did he come back? We don't know, Hamill replied honestly. 3 weeks ago, our security cameras showed a flash of light in Hall 3. The boy appeared near the back wall. He was calm, quiet, and unhurt. No one saw how he got in. He had no ID, no memory, no voice. We thought he was an artificial model left by mistake. But he's real, Rayanne whispered. Yes, Hamill said. Very real. Rayanne stepped into the observation room. The glass door closed softly behind him. The boy sat on a small couch, looking at the ceiling. Zeden, Rayanne said gently, sitting down beside him. It's me, Baba. The boy slowly turned his head. His eyes were soft and searching. He looked at Rayanne for a long moment. Then, he blinked once. Zeden, do you remember me? Rayanne asked again. The boy didn't answer. But his hand slowly reached out and touched Rayanne's coat. Then, he pulled back and touched his own chest. Zeden, he said in a quiet, broken voice. It was the first word he had spoken in 5 years. Rayan gasped. You remember, he said with a shaking voice. You remember your name. Zeden nodded slowly. Tears filled Rayan's eyes. He gently held his son's hand. We're going to bring you home, he said. Lena is waiting. Mama, she's watching from the stars. She would be so proud of you. Zeden looked confused at the word, home. It was like he had forgotten what that meant. Later that day, Dr. Hamill showed Rayan something strange. Zeden has been drawing, the doctor said. He handed Rayan a sheet of paper. On it were symbols like circles and lines and strange patterns. They repeat over and over, Hamill explained. These are not random. They are mathematical, geometric, almost like a code. What does it mean? Rayan asked. We're not sure, but it's similar to energy patterns found in deep space research. It's as if he brought back a message. Rayan stared at the paper. Under the symbols, Zeden had written a single sentence in shaky handwriting. You were not alone. Rayan's hands trembled. What does that mean? He whispered. I don't know, said Hamill, but I believe Zeden saw something. Or someone, wherever he was. He was not the only one there. That night, Rayan sat by Zeden's bed in the special guest room of the museum. Zeden slept peacefully for the first time since he returned. Lena came in quietly and tiptoed to the bed. She kissed Zeden's forehead and whispered, I missed you, bye. Then she turned to her father. Can we take him home now? Rayan nodded slowly. Soon, my love, very soon. Outside, the stars shone like tiny lamps in the sky. But in Rayan's heart, something brighter had returned. Hope. Rayan stood by the wide window of the museum guest room. Outside, the city lights glowed softly under the evening sky. Cars flew quietly across the air lanes, and distant towers blinked like stars. But Rayan's eyes were not on the city. They were on Zeden, his son, who lay peacefully asleep on a soft bed nearby. Even now, it felt like a dream. 5 years of sadness, emptiness, and silence. And suddenly his son was back, not older, not broken, just different. Zeden had barely spoken since saying his name. He moved slowly, like someone still waking up from a long sleep. But his eyes, they were filled with questions, with memories he could not explain. The next morning, Dr. Hamill called Rayan to the lab. I need to show you something, he said. Rayan followed him down a quiet hallway to a private research room. On the large screen, strange lights blinked. Charts and codes moved quickly across it. This is Zeden's brain scan, Hamill said. We scanned it last night while he was sleeping. The image showed something unusual. Zeden's brain activity was active, but not in the usual way. He is healthy, Hamill said. But some parts of his memory are blocked, like frozen. We call it time echo effect. It happens when someone passes through high-energy space, like a wormhole or a quantum fold. Rayan looked confused. Can his memory return? He asked. Yes. Hamill replied, but slowly. And only if he is in familiar places or around familiar people. That will unlock his mind. Just then, a museum worker rushed in holding a tablet. Dr. Hamill, we found something in the security footage, he said. He played the video on the screen. The footage was from 3 weeks ago, late at night. The museum was empty. A flash of blue light filled the prototype hall. Suddenly, in the middle of the room, a small figure appeared. Zeden. He was standing, silent, calm. No door had opened. No window was broken. He had just appeared. There was no panic, no fear. But in the corner of the footage, something strange flickered, a shadow. A tall, soft shape that disappeared the moment the light faded. What is that? Rayan asked, pointing. We don't know, Hamill said. It was only seen for half a second, but Zeden wasn't alone. Rayan felt a chill. Was something or someone helping Zeden return? Later that day, Rayan took Zeden and Lena to the park near their home. It was the same park where Zidane used to play 5 years ago. He hoped it would help bring his son's memory back. Lena held Zidane's hand, walking gently beside him. "Do you remember this swing?" she asked. "You pushed me here once, and I fell in the sand." Zidane didn't answer, but he looked at the swing for a long time. Then he slowly sat on it. Rayan watched closely. "Zidane," he said softly, "look around. This was your favorite place." Zidane looked at the trees, the grass, the little bridge over the pond. Then his lips moved. "I was here," he said in a slow voice. Mama laughed. Rayan's eyes filled with tears. "Yes," he said, sitting beside him. "Your mama was here. She brought sandwiches. You and Lena ran to chase the birds." Zidane looked down at the ground. "She sang," he whispered. "She sang my name." "Yes," Rayan said, smiling sadly. "She always did." Zidane touched his forehead, as if something inside was waking up. "Where is she?" he asked. Rayan held his hand gently. "She's gone, Zidane, but she's always watching, from the stars." Zidane nodded slowly, as if he already knew. That night, Zidane sat quietly at the dining table while Lena drew pictures beside him. Suddenly, he picked up a pencil and began to draw again, symbols, shapes, and lines. His hands moved quickly. When he finished, he handed the paper to Rayan. At the top of the page was a drawing of a circle with a gate. Inside the gate were 3 small dots, like people. Below it, he had written something new. "Not alone." Still inside, Rayan looked at Dr. Hamill, who had just arrived. "What does this mean?" he asked. Hamill studied the paper. "I think he's trying to tell us something," he said. "That he wasn't the only one trapped. And some may still be there." "In the fold?" Rayan asked. "Yes," Hamill said. "If he came back, maybe others can too." "But how?" Rayan asked. Zidane returned on his own. "We don't know how he did it." Hamill thought for a moment. "There's only one way to find out," he said. "We must find the origin of the fold. The place where Zidane disappeared." "The spaceport," Rayan said quietly. "Yes," Hamill nodded. "But that port was shut down. It's now under military control. They sealed the entire area." Rayan stood up. "Then we'll open it again." The next morning, Rayan made a decision. He would visit the old spaceport, the place where his family's life had changed forever. If there was a gate, if others were still trapped, he had to know. Before leaving, he hugged Zidane and Lena. "I'll be back soon," he said. "Stay with Dr. Hamill. Be safe." Zidane held his hand tightly for a moment, then slowly let go. As Rayan walked toward the door, Zidane said something that stopped him in his tracks. "Baba, they called me Echo One." Rayan turned slowly. "Who called you that?" Zidane's eyes were calm. "The voice in the light. The one that helped me." Outside, clouds floated slowly above the city, but deep in the past, something was still calling, and Rayan was ready to listen. The old spaceport stood like a sleeping giant on the edge of the city. Broken lights flickered, and strong fences circled the wide buildings. It had been closed for 5 years after the terrible accident, the same accident where Rayan's son, Zidane, had vanished. Now, Rayan stood in front of the heavy entrance gate. Wind brushed against his coat, and the place felt frozen in time. Beside him was Dr. Hamill, holding a small scanner. A museum guard had quietly helped them enter without alerting others. Rayan's powerful name still opened locked doors. "Do you really think we'll find something here?" Rayan asked. Hamill looked around. "If the fold opened here once, there may still be traces." They walked slowly through the wide, empty hallway. Dust covered the glass. Some machines still blinked in sleep mode. "This is the docking bay," Hamill said, stopping at a large round door. "This is where the energy spike happened. This is where Zidane disappeared." Rayan stepped closer. His heart beat faster. So many memories rushed back. The loud warning alarms, people shouting, fire, holding Lena and Suma close. And then realizing Zidane was no longer by his side. He had screamed his son's name until his voice broke. Now. He stood in the same place, 5 years later, with the chance to uncover the truth. Dr. Hamill activated his scanner. A soft hum filled the room. Strange lights danced across the floor and walls. There, he said, pointing to a spot in the center. There's still a quantum imprint. The fold was real. And it might still be active, weak, but alive. Rayan stepped onto the spot. Nothing happened, but then the scanner beeped. On its small screen, a shape formed, a spiral like a tiny galaxy. Hamill's eyes widened. This is not just energy, it's a signal. A signal? Rayan asked. From where? From wherever Zidane was, Hamill replied. Something is trying to communicate. They rushed back to the museum lab and connected the scanner to the main computer. The spiral signal spun slowly, repeating itself. Dr. Hamill ran it through a translator. The screen flickered. Then a message appeared. We see you. The gate is not closed. Rayan stared at the words. What does it mean? He asked. It means someone or something is still inside the fold, Hamill said. And they're watching us. He pressed another key. More words appeared. He crossed first. Others wait. Bring light to open the path. Rayan felt a strange mix of fear and hope. He whispered. That's Zidane, Hamill nodded. He was the first to come out. But the message, he says, others are still inside. Later that evening, Rayan returned to the museum's guest room where Zidane and Lena were resting. Zidane sat near the window, watching the sky. Rayan sat beside him and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Zidane, do you remember anything more? He asked. Zidane was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke slowly and softly. There was no time there, only light, he said. And voices, many voices. Rayan listened carefully. They were children. Some scared, some waiting. One girl, she sang songs. Did you talk to them? Rayan asked. I tried, Zidane said. But we could only share feelings like dreams. Rayan's heart felt heavy. How did you come back? Zidane closed his eyes. A voice called me. It said, you are the key. Step forward. Then I saw a gate made of stars. I walked through. And then I was in the museum. And the others? Rayan asked gently. They were still there, Zidane whispered. Watching, hoping. That night, Lena sat near her brother, drawing with colored pencils. She was quiet, but happy. She loved having her brother back, even if he still seemed different. Suddenly, Zidane took a blank page and started drawing. He didn't speak. His hand moved quickly. When he was done, he showed it to Rayan and Hamill. It showed a large ring, standing in an empty room, surrounded by lights. Inside the ring were small glowing shapes, people. It's the gate, Zidane said. It's not broken. It just needs power. Rayan looked at Hamill. Can we build it? Hamill studied the drawing. This matches the old design used for space testing, but this version is much more advanced. We would need clean energy, quantum stabilizers, and exact codes. I'll fund it, Rayan said at once. Everything you need. Hamill nodded. Then we begin tomorrow. The next few days were full of work. Inside a hidden lab under the museum, a small team began to build the Echo Gate using Zidane's memories and Hamill's science. Rayan provided the best tools, energy sources, and experts. All kept secret from the public. Zidane helped by drawing and guiding the team. Sometimes he closed his eyes and whispered things he could barely remember. Strange codes, star shapes, glowing paths. Lena stayed by his side, giving him courage. She told him stories and made him laugh. Slowly, Zidane started to smile again. One evening, while walking in the garden, Rayan asked Hamill a quiet question. Do you think these other children are like Zeden from Earth? Hamel nodded. Maybe, or maybe they were caught in folds. From other accidents. The universe is full of strange places. Not all time flows the same. Rayan looked up at the stars. I just want to help them come home. Hamel placed a hand on his shoulder. Then that's exactly what we'll do. Finally. After 2 weeks, the Echo Gate was ready. It stood tall and silent in the middle of the underground chamber. Lights circled its edges. It hummed with soft energy. Zeden walked up to it and placed his hand on the center. The gate lit up, not with bright fire, but with a soft blue glow. A voice came from the center. Not loud, not scary, just a simple sentence. Echo 1. Ready. Zeden turned to Rayan and smiled gently. The stars above the museum seemed brighter that evening. Their soft glow fell over the glass roof of the underground lab, where the Echo Gate stood silently. The blue light around it was gentle now, resting after weeks of powerful activity. Zeden sat cross-legged on the floor, facing the gate. His eyes were closed, his hands resting on his knees. He was listening, not with his ears, but with something deeper. Behind him, Lena quietly watched, hugging her toy bear. She didn't speak. She had learned that sometimes silence was more powerful than words. Suddenly, Zeden opened his eyes. They're calling, he said. Rayan and Dr. Hamel stood nearby, reading the latest data on the gate. The numbers had changed again, small. Signals, soft pulses, and one repeating phrase across the screen. The way is opening, but only with Echo 1. Rayan looked at Hamel. It means Zeden has to go back. Yes, Hamel nodded. But this time, it's deeper. He will not be able to return as quickly. Rayan's hands tightened. He's just a child. But he's not the same child anymore, Hamel said gently. He's been through something no one understands. He was chosen by the fold itself. Maybe that means something. Rayan looked at his son, sitting calmly near the glowing gate. His heart ached with love and fear. I don't want to lose him again, he whispered. You won't, said a small voice behind him. It was Lena. He always finds his way back. That night, Rayan and Zeden sat together under a soft light in the lab's resting area. They were quiet for a long time. Finally, Zeden spoke. There are grown-ups in there too, he said. Some are very tired. Some forgot their names. They don't even know they are lost. Rayan nodded slowly. Do you think you can help them? Yes, Zeden replied. But I will need more time. And what if you can't come back? Rayan asked, his voice shaking. Zeden looked at him and held his hand tightly. Then remember me, he said, and keep the gate open. The next morning, preparations began. The team checked the energy levels, the safety systems, and every wire connected to the Echo Gate. Extra memory stones were attached to Zeden's wrist, small devices that could record what he saw and heard. Lena packed him a small pouch with snacks, drawings, and a tiny light ball, a glowing toy they used to play with before bedtime. Come back before it runs out, she said with a smile. Zeden hugged her. I will. Rayan bent down and hugged his son tightly. You are my heart, he whispered. Come back when you're ready. Zeden nodded. I'll bring others with me. As he stepped toward the gate, everyone watched in silence. The gate's blue light began to spin slowly, forming a circle of stars. It opened wider this time, like it had been waiting. Zeden turned once, gave a small wave and stepped through. Then the gate closed gently behind him, inside the fold. Time stood still. Zeden moved through the glowing space like a leaf floating in water. The silence was heavy, but not empty. It was full of memories, some clear, some broken. He found them, the ones waiting. There was a man sitting cross-legged in a bubble of light, holding a photo of a family. A woman stood in silence, her eyes wide and sad. Children too, some new, some he had seen before. They looked at him. They felt something. Hope.zid and reached out. And slowly, one by one, they began to follow. Back in the lab, The gate blinked once. Then again. Dr. Hamill ran to the control panel. Something's happening. The circle of light appeared once more, brighter, stronger. Then a figure stepped out. Zidan. But this time, he was holding hands with a woman, who blinked at the lights around her. A moment later, a man followed. His clothes were old, his face tired, but his eyes full of wonder. 3 more, then 5. Then 12 people walked out of the gate, silent, blinking, holding hands like a family reborn. Gasps filled the room. Scientists watched with wet eyes. Helpers rushed forward with blankets and soft chairs. They were safe. They were home. Zidan stood quietly, watching the room fill with life. He looked tired, but peaceful. Rayan rushed forward and hugged him tightly. "You came back," he said. Crying softly, Zidan smiled. "I said I would." Lena grabbed his hand and jumped with joy. "You brought more." "Yes," Zidan said. "But there are still others." Rayan looked into his son's eyes, "And we will wait for them." In the days that followed, the museum changed forever. The Echo Gate was now protected by a special group, built by Rayan and Dr. Hamill. People called it the Light Bridge Project. It was no longer a mystery, it was a mission. Rooms were made. For those who returned, soft beds, gardens, music, and gentle care. They were not questioned or studied. They were simply loved. Zidan continued to guide missions, sometimes stepping back into the fold, sometimes helping from the outside. He was no longer just a boy. He was the guide, the one the lost followed. Home. One quiet evening, Lena asked her father, "Is this what Mama wanted?" Rayan smiled and looked up at the stars. "Yes," he said. "She wanted our family to stay whole. And now we're making many families whole again." They watched as Zidan helped a little girl tie her shoes, one of the newest to return. In that moment, there were no walls between past and present, only love, only hope. And the quiet sound of home returning to those who had once been forgotten. The sun rose gently over the city, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and gold. The tall towers caught the light, and birds flew quietly across the morning air. Down below, inside the City Science Museum, something beautiful was happening. Once quiet underground lab had now become a place of life and healing. Children laughed in the soft garden. Adults sat together, talking slowly, sharing stories after long years of silence. The Echo Gate stood calmly in the center, glowing softly. No longer a mystery, but a bridge of hope. Rayan walked through the lab with a gentle smile. His eyes were full of peace. He stopped near the main garden, where Zidan was helping a small boy fix his toy robot. "You fixed it," the boy laughed. Zidan smiled and nodded. "You just needed a new power cell." The boy hugged him and ran. Back to the play area, Rayan sat down beside his son. "You've helped so many," he said quietly. Zidan looked at him and replied, "I didn't do it alone." A few minutes later, Lena joined them, holding 2 drawings in her hands. "Look," she said excitedly. "I made a picture of our family, and one of the gate." Rayan took the drawings and smiled. One showed their family, himself, Zidan, Lena, and a woman with kind eyes and long hair. "That's Mama," Lena whispered. "I never met her, but I always draw her." Zidan smiled softly. "She's always here." Rayan nodded, touched by her words. "She would be proud of both of you." The days passed peacefully. More people returned from the fold, one by one. The gate opened only when it was safe, guided by Zidan's memory and heart. Each return was quiet, gentle, and full of emotion. Some of the grown-ups who returned remembered little. Some were scientists from long-ago missions. Others were travelers who had vanished without a trace. They came back to a world that had changed, but they were welcomed with kindness. The Bridge of Voices, as the sanctuary was now called, became known across the world. But Rayan made one thing clear: this is not a place for fame. This is a place for family. One night, as stars filled the sky again, Zidan had a dream. He stood inside the fold once more. But this time, it was not empty. A tall, glowing figure stood before him, not with a face, but with warmth. "You have opened the path," the voice said gently. "Who are you?" Zidane asked. "We are the ones between time," the voice replied. "You helped the forgotten, and now we give you a gift." Zidane felt a light inside his chest, not heavy, not hot, just peaceful. Then the voice whispered, "Your journey is complete, but the light must stay." Zidane woke up the next morning, feeling calm. Something inside him had changed, but he could not explain it. He walked to the gate, placed his hand on it, and it glowed softly, but did not open. Dr. Hamill arrived with a tablet. "The gate is no longer responding to energy signals," he said. "It's resting," Zidane nodded. "The fold is closing. It has done its part." Hamill looked surprised. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Zidane said. "They're all out now, the ones who were meant to return." Rayan walked forward, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "Then it's time to let it rest." The echo gate was placed under special care. It was no longer active but stood like a beautiful monument, a reminder that the impossible had happened and hearts had been reunited. The museum built a new room around it, the Hall of Return. It told the story of every person who came back. Simple photos, quiet words, and peaceful music filled the space. No fame, no spotlight, just truth. Zidane and Lena visited it often, sitting near the gate and drawing in their notebooks. Children from across the world came to meet them, listen to their story, and share hugs. One afternoon, Lena asked, "Bye, are we normal now?" Zidane thought for a moment and smiled. "We're better than normal, we're together." They laughed and played in the garden as the sun shone above. As months passed, Rayan's company, which had been silent for years, returned. But this time, it was not for business or wealth. It became a foundation for lost families, missing persons, and children without homes. It funded science, care centers, and places of love. He named it the Zidane Light Foundation. Reporters tried to get interviews. Journalists asked for secrets, but Rayan always gave the same answer: "There is no secret, only love and a gate made from light." On the first anniversary of the Echo Gate's opening, the museum held a quiet event. No speeches, no cameras, just a candle for each person who had returned. Zidane lit the first one, then Lena, then Rayan, then Dr. Hamill, and finally, the ones who had come back, young and old, lit theirs too. The garden glowed with tiny flames. Music played softly in the background. A lullaby Suma used to sing to Zida N. As the music filled the air, Rayan closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." That night, as the stars shone brighter than ever, Zidane sat alone for a moment. He looked up at the sky and smiled. He didn't need the fold anymore. He didn't need the gate, because the light was now inside him and around him. In the smiles of the children, in the eyes of Lena, in the quiet strength of his father, and in the peaceful memory of his mother. This was not just the end of a story. It was the beginning of a new world, where even the lost could be found, where light could pass through darkness, and where a little girl once screamed, "Daddy, that's my brother," and changed everything. The sun rose gently over the city, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and gold. The tall towers caught the light, and birds flew quietly across the morning air. Down below, inside the City Science Museum, something beautiful was happening. Once quiet underground lab had now become a place of life and healing. Children laughed in the soft garden. Adults sat together, talking slowly, sharing stories after long years of silence. The Echo Gate stood calmly in the center, glowing softly. No longer a mystery, but a bridge of hope. Rayan walked through the lab with a gentle smile. His eyes were full of peace. He stopped near the main garden, where Zidane was helping a small boy fix his toy robot. "You fixed it," the boy laughed. Zidane smiled and nodded. You just needed a new power cell. The boy hugged him and ran. Back to the play area, Rayan sat down beside his son. You've helped so many, he said quietly. Zidane looked at him and replied, I didn't do it alone. A few minutes later, Lena joined them, holding 2 drawings in her hands. Look, she said excitedly. I made a picture of our family, and one of the gate. Rayan took the drawings and smiled. One showed their family, himself, Zidane. Lena, and a woman with kind eyes and long hair. That's Mama, Lena whispered. I never met her, but I always draw her. Zidane smiled softly. She's always here, Rayan nodded, touched by her words. She would be proud of both of you. The days passed peacefully. More people returned from the fold, one by one. The gate opened only when it was safe, guided by Zidane's memory and heart. Each return was quiet, gentle, and full of emotion. Some of the grown-ups who returned remembered little. Some were scientists from long-ago missions. Others were travelers who had vanished without a trace. They came back to a world that had changed, but they were welcomed with kindness. The Bridge of Voices, as the sanctuary was now called, became known across the world. But Rayan made one thing clear. This is not a place for fame. This is a place for family. One night, as stars filled the sky again, Zidane had a dream. He stood inside the fold once more. But this time, it was not empty. A tall, glowing figure stood before him, not with a face, but with warmth. You have opened the path, the voice said gently. Who are you? Zidane asked. We are the ones between time, the voice replied. You helped the forgotten, and now we give you a gift. Zidane felt a light inside his chest, not heavy, not hot, just peaceful. Then the voice whispered, your journey is complete, but the light must stay. Zidane woke up the next morning, feeling calm. Something inside him had changed, but he could not explain it. He walked to the gate, placed his hand on it, and it glowed softly, but did not open. Dr. Hamill arrived with a tablet. The gate is no longer responding to energy signals, he said. It's resting, Zidane nodded. The fold is closing. It has done its part. Hamill looked surprised. Are you sure? Yes, Zidane said. They're all out now, the ones who were meant to return. Rayan walked forward, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. Then it's time to let it rest. The echo gate was placed under special care. It was no longer active but stood like a beautiful monument, a reminder that the impossible had happened and hearts had been reunited. The museum built a new room around it, the Hall of Return. It told the story of every person who came back. Simple photos, quiet words, and peaceful music filled the space. No fame, no spotlight, just truth. Zidane and Lena visited it often, sitting near the gate and drawing in their notebooks. Children from across the world came to meet them, listen to their story, and share hugs. One afternoon, Lena asked, Bye, are we normal now? Zidane thought for a moment and smiled. We're better than normal, we're together. They laughed and played in the garden as the sun shone above. As months passed, Rayan's company, which had been silent for years, returned. But this time, it was not for business or wealth. It became a foundation for lost families, missing persons, and children without homes. It funded science, care centers, and places of love. He named it the Zidane Light Foundation. Reporters tried to get interviews. Journalists asked for secrets, but Rayan always gave the same answer. There is no secret, only love and a gate made from light. On the first anniversary of the Echo Gate's opening, the museum held a quiet event. No speeches, no cameras, just a candle for each person who had returned. Zidane lit the first one. Then Lena, then Rayan, then Dr. Hamill, and finally, the ones who had come back, young and old, lit theirs too. The garden glowed with tiny flames. Music played softly in the background. A lullaby Suma used to sing to Zida N. as the music filled the air. Rayan closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." That night, as the stars shone brighter than ever, Zidane sat alone for a moment. He looked up at the sky and smiled. He didn't need the fold anymore. He didn't need the gate, because the light was now inside him and around him. In the smiles of the children, in the eyes of Lena, in the quiet strength of his father, and in the peaceful memory of his mother. This was not just the end of a story. It was the beginning of a new world, where even the lost could be found, where light could pass through darkness, and where a little girl once screamed, "Daddy, that's my brother," and changed everything.